Okay, so welcome back to the deep dive. We're continuing our journey through How to Human. And today, we're really getting into the nitty-gritty of part 10, which, if you've been following along, you know is all about work-life balance and letting go.
It's funny, isn't it? We get so much advice, so much information thrown at us about how to be successful, how to climb that career ladder. But when it comes to actually integrating that with the rest of life, all the stuff that makes life, well, life, it kind of feels like we're left to figure it out on our own.
Right. Like, where's the instruction manual for that?
Exactly. And that's why I think this deep dive is so timely. We're going to unpack what work-life balance and letting go really mean, why they're so crucial, and most importantly, what we can actually do about it based on all these amazing insights from How to Human.
And, one thing that always strikes me about How to Human is, well, it just gets the whole human paradox, right?
Yeah.
We want structure, but we also crave freedom. We need connection, but we also fiercely guard our independence. This whole section on work-life balance and letting go, it really gets at that tension, doesn't it? Like, how do we strive for success without sacrificing everything else that makes us, well, us?
Absolutely. And I think the How to Human notes really nail it when they define work-life balance.
Yeah.
It's not just about splitting your hours evenly between work and everything else. It's more about this conscious effort to manage your professional responsibilities while also making sure you're prioritizing your personal well-being, your relationships, those things that bring you joy outside of work.
So it's like making sure your work supports your life, not the other way around.
Exactly. And then tied into that is this whole idea of letting go, which I think is so important, especially in the context of work. It's about releasing that guilt we often feel when we're not working, letting go of those perfectionistic tendencies, and honestly, just ditching those unrealistic expectations we often put on ourselves, especially when it comes to our careers.
Okay, so we've got the what. Now let's talk about the why. We all know, on some level, that balance is good and stress is bad. But what does How to Humans say about the deeper implications, both positive and negative, of how we handle this whole work-life thing?
Well, the notes don't sugarcoat it. They make it clear that if we don't prioritize balance, burnout becomes almost inevitable. And we're not just talking about feeling a bit tired. We're talking chronic stress, exhaustion, and a whole cascade of potential health problems, both physical and mental.
And, it's not just about our individual health, right? Like, how does this imbalance affect our relationships, our overall well-being?
Yeah, the notes talk about how people who are constantly struggling with work-life balance often feel isolated, like they're missing out on connecting with loved ones. They're mentally and emotionally exhausted, and ironically, they even start to lose the passion for the work they're doing. It's like this vicious cycle.
It's almost like you get so caught up in the doing that you lose sight of the why you were doing it in the first place.
Exactly. But on the flip side, How to Human really emphasizes the amazing benefits of getting this right. And it's not just about feeling less stressed, although that's a huge part of it. The notes highlight how people who prioritize balance are often more resilient, they're more creative, and get this, they're actually more productive in the long run.
So it's not like you have to choose between having a life and being successful at work.
Not at all. In fact, it's quite the opposite. The research is really clear on this. When people take time to rest and recharge, they come back to work more focused, more energized, and they actually do better work. It's a win-win.
Okay, so we've established that balance is good, burnout is bad. But what about this whole letting go piece? Why does How to Human single that out as so crucial, particularly in this context?
I think it's because we live in a culture that really glorifies busyness, achievement, constantly striving for more. And that can make it really hard to, just relax and be present without feeling guilty.
Oh yeah, the hustle harder mentality. Like you're not a worthy human unless you're constantly producing something.
Right. And that's what How to Human is pushing back against. The notes talk about how important it is to separate our self-worth from our professional achievements. They emphasize that rest is not laziness, it's essential for our well-being.
So it's about recognizing that our value as human beings doesn't hinge on how much we work or how productive we are.
Exactly. And it's about giving ourselves permission to enjoy our downtime without that nagging feeling that we should be doing something else.
All right, so How to Human has laid out the what and the why. But let's get practical. What are some actual strategies for building this elusive work-life balance and actually getting better at letting go?
Well, the notes are actually really helpful here. They offer several concrete strategies. And the first one, which might seem the most obvious but is often the hardest to do, is setting boundaries.
Ah, yes. Boundaries. The holy grail of work-life balance.
Right. But it's not just about saying, I'm not working after 6 p.m. It's about actually creating those boundaries and enforcing them. Like turning off your email notifications, not taking work calls during dinner, actually physically leaving your workspace.
You mean like not checking your work email while you're supposed to be watching your kid's soccer game?
Exactly. And the notes make another great point, which is that we're so good at scheduling our work commitments, but we often neglect to schedule in time for ourselves, for the things that replenish us.
Oh, that's so true. Like, my calendar is packed with meetings and deadlines, but where's the go for a hike appointment?
Exactly. And that's the second strategy. Schedule in your downtime. Treat it with the same importance as a work meeting. Put it in your calendar, make it non-negotiable.
I love that. Schedule your relaxation like it's a board meeting with the CEO of your life.
Right. And then the third strategy, How to Human talks about, is reframing how we think about productivity. It challenges that idea that being busy all the time equals being effective.
Oh, I so needed to hear that. It's like I get a gold star for being the most frazzled person in the room.
And the notes suggest that we shift our focus from just quantity of hours to quality of output. They emphasize that rest and recovery are actually essential for sustained productivity.
So it's not about burning the candle at both ends. It's about working smart and then actually allowing yourself to recharge so you can keep doing good work.
Exactly. And the fourth strategy, which really ties into letting go, is to actively practice it. That might sound a bit circular, but it's really about building that mental muscle to resist the urge to feel guilty when you're not working. It's about reminding yourself that your worth doesn't depend on being constantly productive.
So like intentionally choosing to relax without the mental to-do list running in the background.
Exactly. And then the final strategy, How to Human emphasizes, is really about zooming out and remembering what truly matters. It suggests we consider, that end-of-life perspective. Like, when we're looking back on our lives, what will we regret? Will it be that we didn't answer one more email? Or will it be that we missed out on time with loved ones, experiences that brought us joy?
It's a good reminder to check in with our values and make sure our actions are aligned with what we really care about.
Right. And speaking of reality checks, How to Human doesn't shy away from the challenges we face when trying to implement these strategies. And, one of the biggest ones, especially nowadays, is that constant pressure to be available.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The always-on culture. Like you have to be reachable 24/7 or you're not dedicated enough.
Exactly. And that's why the notes really emphasize the importance of reframing boundaries. It's not about being selfish or lazy. It's about protecting your time and energy so you can be more effective in the long run.
It's about taking care of yourself so you can actually show up for the things that matter.
Exactly. And another challenge a lot of people struggle with, and I know I do this too, is perfectionism. It can be so hard to disconnect from work when you feel like everything has to be just right.
Oh, the tyranny of the perfectly crafted email.
Right. And that's why How to Human encourages us to embrace the idea of good enough. Like sometimes done is better than perfect. It's about letting go of that need to control every detail and trusting that things will be okay, even if they're not flawless.
So it's about prioritizing progress over perfection.
Absolutely. And finally, How to Human addresses this really common issue of work becoming our whole identity. When our job title becomes who we are, it's really hard to separate ourselves from that and find value and meaning in other areas of life.
It's like when someone asks, what do you do?
Yeah.
And your answer is your entire life story.
Yeah. And so the notes encourage us to cultivate interests outside of work, nurture our relationships, engage in things that bring us joy that have nothing to do with our jobs.
So it's about building a more well-rounded sense of self, one that doesn't crumble if something happens in our careers.
Right. It's about recognizing that we are so much more than what we do for a living.
Okay, so we've got the theory, we've got the strategies, but does How to Human give any real-world examples to illustrate just how important this all is?
Oh, yeah. The notes bring up some pretty compelling examples, and one of the most sobering ones is the phenomenon of karoshi in Japan, which literally translates to death by overwork.
Wow, that's intense.
It is. And the fact that this is a recognized issue in Japan and that some companies are actually taking steps to address it really highlights the devastating consequences of a severe lack of work-life balance.
It's a stark reminder that this isn't just about feeling a bit stressed. It can have real, life-altering consequences.
Absolutely. But the notes also point to some more positive examples, like companies like Google and Netflix, which are known for prioritizing employee well-being. They offer flexible schedules, time for personal projects, and really encourage their employees to have a life outside of work.
And I imagine that probably translates to happier, more engaged employees, which ultimately benefits the company as well.
Exactly. It's a win-win. And then the notes also encourage us to think about people in our own lives, people we admire who seem to have figured this out. Maybe it's a leader who takes regular vacations without guilt, or an entrepreneur who builds their business around their family commitments.
It's like finding those real-life role models who show us that it's possible to be successful and have a fulfilling life outside of work.
Right. And they remind us that success doesn't have to be defined solely by our professional achievements. It can also be about living a balanced, meaningful life.
So it's about expanding our definition of what success looks like.
Yeah.
Now, I know How to Human also includes some reflection questions for the reader, and I think these would be great for our listeners as well. What are some of the prompts that stood out to you?
Well, there are a few really thought-provoking ones, like, do you feel guilty when you take time to rest or engage in leisure activities? And if so, why?
Oh, that's a good one. It really forces you to examine your beliefs about productivity and rest.
Right. And another one is, how often does work interfere with your personal time? Can you identify any patterns or specific examples?
It's like making you do an audit of your time and how you're actually spending it.
Exactly. And then there's, what are some activities outside of work that bring you genuine joy and fulfillment?
That's a good reminder to connect with our passions, the things that light us up outside of our jobs.
Absolutely. And another one is, what's one small, realistic boundary you could implement this week to create better work-life balance?
So taking those big ideas and turning them into actionable steps.
Exactly. And then finally, there's, do you define your self-worth primarily through your work, or do you recognize your inherent value as a person independent of your job?
That's a powerful question. It
Mm.
really brings us back to that core idea of separating our identity from our work.
And there's just a few of the reflection questions. I really encourage our listeners to spend some time with those, maybe journal about them, really dig into what they bring up for you.
Yeah, I think those are some great prompts for self-reflection and for figuring out how to create a more balanced and fulfilling life. Now, before we wrap up, I know How to Human has a really nice closing thought for this section.
They do. And it's a good one. It says, work is important, but so is living. A well-balanced life isn't about doing everything. It's about making time for what truly matters.
I love that. It's simple, but so profound.
And it leads us to our final thought for you, our listeners. What if actively prioritizing rest and personal time didn't just make you happier and healthier, but also made you more effective, more creative, and even more fulfilled in all areas of your life, including your work? What tiny shift, what small boundary could you implement today, right now, to start moving towards that more balanced and enriching existence? It's not about achieving some perfect state of balance. It's about making conscious choices that align with your values and make space for all the things that truly matter.
That's a great question to ponder as we sign off. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for having me. It was a great conversation.